Good evening and welcome to another episode of Service to Humanity, your window into the activities, interventions and programs of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. I am your anchor, Hajiya. A national policy on internally displaced persons has just been launched by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajiya Sadiya Umar Farouq in Abuja. What are the highlights of the event, and what plans does the federal government have for IDPs? That is the subject of this episode of our program. Join me after the break for details.
Our program is key to helping young Nigerians acquire and develop.
The federal government of Nigeria remains committed to including and protecting persons with disabilities to guarantee that no one is left behind.
I see that we are going through challenging times, and I see this woman running all about the country trying to help our people, because this lady is doing a very good job for our country.
Thank you.
Thank you for all what you have been doing for us.
The program starts with the Management Diary, where we bring you news and current happenings in the ministry and her agencies. In our lineup, School Feeding Program. Federal government announces actions to boost 10 million pupils' nutrition. And Humanitarian Ministry trains staff on fire awareness, prevention, evacuation drill. Please stay tuned.
The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, through the Department of Humanitarian Affairs, has held its annual in-house fire awareness and prevention training and evacuation drill at the Federal Secretariat Complex, Phase 1, Abuja.
We have what we call kitchen fire, we have Class A, electrical fire.
The training was centered around learning about fire hazards and fire equipment and how to mitigate fire in our homes and offices. A similar drill held in 2020 and had a positive impact on the trainees in particular and the ministry in general. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouq, was represented at the event by the Deputy Director, Disaster Management, Dr. Suleiman, while an instructor from the Federal Fire Service, DSF Amusa Alade Matthew, facilitated the training.
You cut off electricity supply before you can even attempt to fight any fire.
His talk focused on safety, causes of fires and fire incidents, classes of fire, as well as fire prevention and response. The high point of the training was the practical demonstrations of the various fire evacuation drills and how to use various fire extinguishers to extinguish fires. One of the participants speaks on what they were taught at the training.
I am so glad indeed that this lecture came. In fact, a lot of things they have taught us. One is knowing what is fire and knowing what can generate fire and knowing the causes of the fire and knowing what you can do to mitigate against fire in time of emergency. I want to appreciate the management of Humanitarian Department for giving us this opportunity to listen and to learn what we don't know before. In fact, if fire comes now, I know even in the office, they also told us that there is a muster point where you can move from the danger zone to free zone. So that is one of the things that people need to know about. I want to appreciate them and say more grace to their elbow, that God will bless them, that they will keep doing more to us. We will remain grateful for what they are doing.
The federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, in collaboration with development partners, is set to launch Information, Education and Communication (IEC) tools for monitoring its national deworming campaign under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program. The exercise is to ensure pupils have the required nutritional intake in terms of improved diet and disease prevention. It will also see that benefiting pupils will be administered deworming medicines across the country. Towards this end, a 5-day stakeholders workshop held in Nasarawa State. It was organized by the ministry in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Health with the objective of outlining the modalities for the deworming exercise as well as developing and harmonizing the IEC materials and reporting template. While addressing participants during the workshop, National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program, Dr. Umar, who was represented by the Deputy Director, Planning, Research and Statistics, Mrs. Sadiya, said the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, apart from providing one free nutrient-rich meal for primary 1 to 3 pupils in public primary schools, has embedded other school health and nutrition activities towards maximizing the benefits of the free school meals on the health of the pupils. On his part, National Coordinator of Neglected Tropical Diseases, NTDS, Dr. Nse Akpan, urged all the ministries, departments and agencies involved in the Homegrown School Feeding Program to work together with a view to ensuring successful implementation of the deworming program for the benefit of Nigerian children.
You are still watching Service to Humanity, a program which brings you activities of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and its agencies. As part of ongoing efforts towards ensuring effective coordination of the federal government's strategic response to the humanitarian challenges in the country, the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, launched the National Policy on Internally Displaced Persons. Our next segment highlights the launch of this very important document. Let's see how it went. Keep watching.
The National Policy on Internally Displaced Persons (IDP) was launched on Tuesday, 22nd March 2022 by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Hajiya Sadiya Umar Farouq.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today I'm also launching to the world the National Policy on Internal Displaced Persons.
The launch, which took place at the Ladi Kwali Hall of Sheraton Hotel in Abuja, had in attendance Speaker of the House of Representatives Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, who was represented by Honorable Mohammed Umar Jiga, Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. Other dignitaries in attendance were heads of agencies under the ministry, CSOs, NGOs, heads of NSIP clusters, directors in the ministry, strategic partners, editors, and humanitarian affairs correspondents. The policy document, approved by the Federal Executive Council (FEC) in September 2021, was launched in Abuja during the ministry's humanitarian open house themed "Coordinating for Durable Humanitarian Solutions: The Journey So Far." In her keynote address, the minister stated that new realities and emerging trends in the humanitarian space in Nigeria were taken into cognizance before developing and adopting the policy.
This policy therefore draws extensively on the guidance of international and national frameworks on the prevention of internal displacement, as well as those on protection and assistance of internally displaced persons. The Kampala Convention, the UN Guiding Principles on Internal Displacement, and the fair minimum standards for humanitarian assistance have significantly defined the direction of this policy. This policy envisions an equitable and stable Nigerian society that is proactive and responsive to situations that could lead to internal displacement, where the right to life of dignity is guaranteed for all internally displaced persons, and where adequate measures and durable solutions exist to prevent and mitigate the impact of internal displacement on vulnerable populations.
The minister also assured that plans were ongoing to domesticate the African Union Kampala Convention.
I wish to formally announce that we have commenced the stand-alone process of domesticating the African Union Kampala Convention. The relevant stakeholders are hereby charged to come up with the draft bill for onward presentation to the Federal Executive Council for approval and subsequent transmission to the National Assembly for necessary legislative actions.
To ensure efficient and effective implementation of the policy, the Minister inaugurated the Technical Working Group and charged the group and other relevant stakeholders to immediately commence elaboration of an implementation plan with clear roles and responsibilities of all actors, including monitoring and evaluation strategy, which will ensure compliance with the policy framework and scope and determine the extent of achievement of policy goals and objectives. Earlier, a brief on policy formulation and coordination of the Humanitarian Ministry was given by Director Planning, Research and Statistics, Mr. Rafael Obi Orealuno. Mr. Obi stated that the mainstream ministries are established with special focus on policy formulation and implementation, as well as supervision of such policies and implementation by agencies of the ministry.
The case of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has not been different, because from inception, the ministry has undertaken its responsibilities through the formulation of various policies.
According to Mr. Obi, these policies include National Policy on Aging, a policy that has given birth to what is known today as the Senior Citizens Center. National Migration Policy, established to tackle issues concerning migration. National Disability Policy, established to handle matters that concern persons living with disability. National Policy for Internally Displaced Persons, the policy currently being launched, designed to handle issues that concern internally displaced persons. National Disaster Risk Management Policy, awaiting approval by the Federal Executive Council. National Social Protection Policy, intended to encapsulate all social issues in Nigeria. Goodwill messages were delivered, amongst others, by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Bashir Nura Al-Ghali, who was represented by Director Humanitarian Affairs Alhaji Ali Grema.
The overall goal of the Internally Displaced Persons policy that is being launched today is strengthening the institution, mechanism, and framework for the minimization of the rights, dignity, and well-being of vulnerable populations by mitigation of impact and achievement of durable solutions to internal displaced in Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the goal of the IDP policy speaks on the theme of today's open house coordination of durable solutions, the journey so far. As it brings us on the step closer to our goal of achieving durable solutions to humanitarian crisis in Nigeria. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development has at the core of its mandate the development of humanitarian policies and the provision of effective coordination of national and international humanitarian services and interventions.
Interacting with journalists, Hajiya Farouq speaks further on the IDPs policy.
We have just inaugurated the technical working group that will come up with the action plan on how to implement this policy. The most important thing is the implementation. That is why we are bringing everybody on deck to see that this policy is being implemented.
Farouq further commented on the integration of IDPs.
So far, so good. As people are being displaced, others are being integrated back into the society. I'm sure you are aware that the Borno State government has started the process of returning people back to their communities, and the ministry is supporting to see that areas that are safe for return, people are returned back with safety and in dignity.
Across the 6 geopolitical zones.
They should use this money for what it is meant for, efficiently to take care of their family.
In 36 states and the FCT.
over 6.4 million of Nigerians poorest of the poor in about 1.3 million households receive conditional cash transfers of 5,000 naira monthly under the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government. Their joy knows no bound.
And the government very well because they did well for us.
Help me to do any other thing, my family.
Reducing absolute poverty, promoting shared prosperity through the Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in service to humanity.
The program is Service to Humanity. The launch of a national policy on IDPs held alongside the maiden edition of the Humanitarian Open House. The widely publicized open house was to give the ministry an opportunity to showcase its successes through the implementation of the National Social Investment Program, while giving the media a chance to interact and ask questions as it relates to the activities of the ministry since its establishment in August 2019. Our next segment focuses on the open house as we bring you highlights of that part of the ceremony. Keep watching.
The ministry's Humanitarian Open House had a theme, coordinating for durable humanitarian solutions, the journey so far. While speaking, the minister said that the Humanitarian Open House was aimed at showcasing programs, activities and interventions of the ministry in the last 2.5 years.
The theme has been carefully chosen to allow the ministry to speak on its coordinating efforts, program of activities and achievements recorded, as well as the milestones being attained, results being delivered, and more importantly, the direct impact the ministry and indeed government is making in the lives of Nigerians.
Farouq added that the day was set aside for the ministry to engage with the media, strategic partners and stakeholders and offer them the opportunity to ask questions, get clarification and offer useful suggestions by way of their desired feedback.
The open house will encourage a nexus for discussion and interchange of ideas to enable the media practitioners report from an informed position, as well as provide stakeholders and partners first-hand information they can share and disseminate across their various platforms. Through these programs, we hope to provide a more engaging platform for the ministry to lead the way through improved connectivity, enable more synergy and cooperation between and among stakeholders to support and empower more people, create more possibilities, provide access to more solutions, make things happen faster, and support the growing ranks of people of concern to access more interventions.
As part of the activities to mark the Humanitarian Open House, Minister Umar Farouq presented the ministry's information brochure and National Social Investment Program information brochure to the public. The brochure is an information book containing all information on the ministry, its departments, programs and agencies. In the same vein, a pictorial compendium chronicling the programs, activities and achievements of the ministry was also unveiled. The event saw the Honorable Minister and all others present visiting the stands of various agencies under the ministry for interactions and to see what they have been up to. Hajiya Shehu, National Program Coordinator of the National Cash Transfer Office, speaks on the Humanitarian Open House.
As you can see, this is the entire ministry in one place. And everybody is showcasing more like a trade fair, coming to showcase what you have achieved so far since the establishment of the ministry. And our beneficiaries have been here to show how much we have impacted on their lives. And so it's a kind of a collaborative effort to see what everybody is doing under the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, service to humanity, and how much we're trying as much as possible to uplift a lot of Nigerians out of poverty as part of the mandate of Mr. President. That's the reason why everybody is here today, to showcase how far we have come and to kind of let the President know that we've been on our toes. The Honorable Minister has been on ground doing the work she's mandated to do with the support of her team.
Zainab Musawa also tells what they at the ministry have done concerning the JEEP program.
One of the things that we did in the ministry was to restructure, to create a structure for the JEEP program. Prior to now, there was no top-bottom representation. But I guess the JEEP 2.0 now has a representation at the federal level, which is the ministry. We have a representation at the state level as well, which is the state focal persons, and we now have a JEEP desk officer who is called the JEEP program manager at the state, who supervises the implementation of the program across all local governments within that particular state. And then lastly, the ministry is partnering with National Orientation Agency to register people at the local government level. So what we're doing is we use these COMOs, they're called the Community Orientation and Mobilization Officers. We tag them as the JEEP program managers. They're registering people across every local government. We have pictorial evidence. They were giving booklets. They were able to give the ministry adequate data of people they registered.
Representatives of beneficiaries of the National Social Investment Programs from various parts of the country were also present at the Humanitarian Open House. They took turns to give testimonies of their gains from the NSIPE programs. Mariam Adamu from Chanchaga local government area of Niger State, a vendor under the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, speaks on how the program has impacted on her life, that of our colleagues, and the pupils they cook for.
Our children enjoy this program. There is great improvement in enrollment rates in schools. Sometimes, the seats in the classrooms do not contain the number of pupils due to the school feeding program. We are very grateful. We are now independent. Some of us now sell firewood, some own grinding machines. I was able to buy a deep freezer because I have been empowered. I sell sachet water and soft drinks. We are grateful to President Buhari and the Honorable Minister of Humanitarian Affairs.
Salamatu Musa, a beneficiary of the conditional cash transfer, speaks on what she used the funds for and how it has helped change her life.
I used to buy chemical. I buy chemical for liquid soap and also make perfumes. And these are the chemicals for the. These are the chemicals for the perfume, liquid soap, and this one is for the perfume I make. And by now, I also distribute even to our, let me say, villagers, because I didn't have anybody that is producing liquid soap. But for now, I distribute to many places. And by now, I thank a lot. I didn't have anything to say for now because I can, for this, they already give me joy for this open house and this beneficiary. Before I'm nobody, but now, when you come to our community, let me say Kwali or Derby side, I'm one of the best ladies. Because this one is for my mom, but I'm one of the best. Anyway,
a beneficiary of the Government Empowerment and Enterprise Program, Mercy Joshua, testifies to the impact of the JEEP program.
Formerly, I was doing kunu, buying small mudu, but now I can be able to buy much in quantity. I train my children in school. Now, by the special grace of God, my children higher institution. So I want to thank this program and thank President Muhammad Buhari. I want to say, let them remember us again and continue again for this program again, so that we can be able to move forward. Thank you very much.
From the Empower, Shagun Aberi narrates his journey under the program and how it has helped to make his life better, giving him an opportunity to grow from employee to an employer.
Before I joined Empower, I've been teaching in the private sector, private schools now. All of us know what it means to teach in private schools, especially in the rural community. You get used from morning till night and you get underpaid. And I've done this for quite a number of years, about 3-4 years before I had the opportunity to join Empower. When I joined Empower, I actually applied under adult education sector. That's been my passion for some times now. But at the time, they didn't match adult education with the teaching sector properly. So I went to school. I went to the rural community, and I taught there for 2 years thereabouts before they moved us outside and we moved to another stage of Empower. And during this process, I learned a lot in the teaching sector, the administration, the writing of reports, writing of news plans, and a host of others. And by the special grace of God, I have my own adult education school right now. And it's not only that, I run an adult education school that's based in Abuja here called Leadwin Adult School. And I have degrees to have employed over 10 persons working with me.
On that note, we draw the curtains on this episode of Service to Humanity. Don't forget to send in questions and suggestions to any of our social media platforms or drop a message on the ministry's page on Facebook or Twitter. Until I come your way again next week, stay safe.